Hey man, you was telling us this one story about when the natives had got into it, man. Could you let the audience in on what happened when the natives got into it?
Okay, once again, I was in Oxford, right? So I told you I worked the kitchen, so you get chatter all through the kitchen, and the chatter was at this particular time that the natives were having an internal beef because you had a minority of them that wanted to let the pedophiles um, walk the compound,
Who was the natives?
indigenous Americans. So you have most of them, they ride with different organizations, but in federal prison, you have what they call a call, where you have your community, your immediate community. So with that, they were having an internal beef about some internal community members who happen to like children. So it was really a tense situation on the compound anyway. Any little thing could have sparked a, a demonstration of force. So at this time, it was time for me to get out the kitchen. Now, like I say, I had heard all the little chatter. Time for me to go back to the unit. Get back to the unit, take me a shower, and it's my workout time. So I go out on the compound. I'm lifting weights, and as I'm lifting weights, I could see that they still having a heated discussion on the yard. So with this, the minority of the natives who wanted the pedophiles to walk were getting was getting loud, and you know how people react when you steady um, in a heated situation and you're getting your volume is raising up. So one of them swung, and it caused everybody to fight amongst themselves. Which once again, this was the native
So let
situation.
me get this straight. Is it a whole bunch of pedophiles you talking about? Like there was a gang fight, like they had a standoff or something? Is it a lot of pedophiles?
Not in the max or the medium. They more go towards the minimum security. But this particular time, they had a few of them that was in the hole that was waiting to get out or waiting to leave the facility. Either way, but yeah, so they had the standoff on the yard and they got into it with each other on a fist fight side. But at this particular time, you had some that was grabbing weapons, which included broomsticks, mop bucket handles, and some weights. And it was really getting kind of bloody. It was really getting to the situation where they had to bring in medical civilians to come and tend to these people. The It was busted heads. Somebody got a real deep laceration around his facial features, eye sockets broken, things of this nature. It get real bloody when you talking about a civil war internal beef situation. So I mean,
Why did they want pedophiles on the deck with the natives?
oh, the reasoning behind it was for them to get more numbers. Even wherever you go in the federal system, there's going to be a hierarchy. The more members you have, the more your status moves up. They wanted to move up by any means. Some wanted to move up by any means, but that is a no-no in federal prison, which would be inducting informants or people who happen to like children, for a nice way of saying things. But we don't let them walk the compound like that.
Why is it a threat for people that like children inside the penitentiary system?
It's a threat because a person could have photos of their children. They could be on a visit with their children, and if something happens, or if you happen to have a roommate that's a pedophile, and you come back to the room and he has your photographs of your children in their hands. So I mean, it is a detrimental situation. You just don't want to be tied to those people because it'll end badly for you. Birds of a feather flock together. That's how you get looked at in prison.
So those natives that was in prison, were they connected to any outside gangs, or did the natives
Yes.
just stick to themselves?
Yes, some of them are connected to the Gangster Disciples. You got some that's connected to some Bloods, some that's connected to Crips. You got some that's just straight natives. They just ride with their people. And the minority of this situation was just happened to be straight natives. They didn't ride with anybody else. But those who were in key organizations know the rules of everybody, of every situation in the prison, every prison. Pedophiles don't walk here. We don't do that here. Um, but then you got some places like Lowe's that allow them to walk freely. Lowe's are like a step before you get ready to go home. Then you got a camp. When you go to a camp, you know you're going home. They walk freely there. A camp is you can ride on the. I'm gonna tell you how vicious a camp is, how great a camp is. You can ride on the bus by yourself. Public transportation, CTA, not CTA, but Greyhound. You can get on Greyhound and ride Greyhound by yourself. No CO escort, no nothing. So it is a great experience. And when you're trying to get up out of there, you get some semblance of freedom back.
What ultimately happened?
What ultimately happened was that a lot of the natives that were there ended up being sent to other prisons. And those who were pedophiles never got to walk their compound.
Is it a large number of natives locked up?
On my joint, the joint that I was at, it was like almost 150 of them on the compound.
Damn, is that many natives in the
Yes.
federal system?
We in the Midwest, yes.
Why
Yes.
were they in the federal system so deep? What were they doing?
Some because, well, number one, you have to remember any crime that happens on a reservation, the people that run the reservations have the right to turn that over to the federal government. In a lot of their cases, they got their cases turned over to the federal system, and they usually get locked up for meth. They usually get locked up for violent crimes, guns, any situation that may happen on a reservation that may happen on the street too. You know what I'm saying? It can be turned over to the feds. It could be given to feds. So, like, you may have a bunch of them who have pedophile cases. That in itself would go to the feds. Of course, you know, they get him a slap on the wrist, though. So, government is twisted.
Why was there so many pedophile natives in there?
I can't give you the reason why, but I can only tell you what I've seen in there. It could be from childhood trauma. It happened to them, and they passed it on down the line to the next person.
So what about the black pedophiles?
Hell, don't get that twisted. There's some that's in there, but they don't walk the compound. Where I was at, they don't walk their compound. That's in the gate. Now, if they happen to go to a low or to a camp, they can walk there, but they can't walk in max or medium.
So they ended up sending all the natives away.
Yep.
They had to rebuild their numbers.
Yep. Eventually they'll get more in and they'll start to rebuild their numbers, but you are lost a lot of members, so you're lower on the totem pole. You don't have soldiers.
But they still had their gang ties though, right?
Yeah, the ones who were straight ace flying with their car and they organization, they always gonna be straight because they paper say they straight. Their paperwork say they straight. That don't change.
Did you know any natives, like personally? Like,
Oh yeah, I knew quite a few of them. I worked in the kitchen with them. I mean, I know a lot of Mexicans that were in there. I know a lot of the brothers from let's say Michigan. I know some that's from Baltimore. I know some. It's the feds. You have a mixture of everybody, and everybody is on. It doesn't matter what unit you on. You're gonna run into a person from somewhere. You might run into a Hawaiian brother, a brother from Alaska. That might be your celly. Most times, though, when you in the feds, you cannot be put in the room with anybody from DC if you from Chicago, because it's bound to get bloody. So the brothers from Chicago will get you out of that cell, or they get him up out of that cell. Either way, DC gonna do the same for their people.
So what happened to the pedophiles? Did something? Did they stay on in the yard?
No, they just sit in the hole and wait for either somebody to come get them or for them to be shipped out of there. In that case, they got shipped up out of there right along with the rest of those natives who they sent up out of there. The moral of the story is don't touch children. Keep your mind straight and know that what your purpose is. Your purpose here on this planet is to feed your offspring, not abuse them. Join me next time on Crazy Stories. I'm looking forward for another adventure of being where you don't want to be. Peace.